Hi, how are you?
So, hi, this is Kyra, and I'm here with Kaylin, obviously. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit lighter, mainly because I paused on the other idea of what I wanted to talk about, but we'll get to it. So today we're going to talk about how we became friends. I figured it'd be something fun and kind of interesting because we kind of went through trials and tribulations a little bit. So we're going to get into it. So I guess I'll start. So we met at U of M. We both attended the university. She eventually decided that she didn't want to stay, but we support each other in our decisions, me staying and her deciding to leave. And we actually met when I was a junior.
I think so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a sophomore.
No, I was a freshman.
You were a freshman?
Yep, because my sophomore year, or the first year, I don't think...
How many years apart are we?
Two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Duh. Okay.
Yep.
Well, in that case, she was a freshman and I was a junior. We forget our age all the time, so bear with me. But it was interesting because I had been invited. We met through Unity. Let me just say that first. Mm-hmm. Unity on campus.
Yep. Real quick, Unity is a non-denominational Christian church that supposedly supports all faiths. Okay, go ahead.
And so the reason that I was interested in joining is because at the time I was adopted by a Jewish family. They decided they were going to be my Ann Arbor family. And I was raised Christian, but I was hurt by church. And I just decided that church wasn't for me anymore. Baptist church. And so then Unity presented itself through Reverend E, and I was invited to go the beginning of my junior year. And because I didn't realize who the emails were coming from, I never went until I saw her again. She was like, I've been inviting you. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what it was for. That's where it was from. And so I ended up showing up mainly because of the free food, because they gave free food every Thursday. And it ended up being an experience that I really was grateful for. And in going to those meetings, that's where I met Kaylin. And we were talking last week about how her energy just kind of grabs at you and just wants to pull you in and it makes you comfortable and everything like that. And so we definitely kind of like did like eye tag of like wanting to hear what each other was saying, but never kind of went into actually talking to each other. I think for like the first couple weeks, because we only met once a week. And then I ended up needing a ride to go back to North Campus. And the person who usually gave me a ride, she couldn't do it that day. And because it was late at night and Reverend didn't want me to have to take the bus back, she was actually going to drive me home after we finished cleaning up, but Kaylin offered to take me. And so that's where we kind of started our friendship at that point. And at first it was just kind of light stuff. We talked about the stuff that we talked about in Unity, diving into it deeper because we felt like some of the conversations were kind of censored to be more easy for everybody, but we both kind of like difficult conversations. So, we were saying, well, I felt that this person didn't say this anymore. I was uncomfortable with what this person had to say. This person didn't didn't vibe right. And that kind of segued into us being easier to talk about more personal stuff that we were going through. Like, for example, for me, I was going through a very heavy depression stage. My mom was in an abusive relationship, which was taking a toll because I couldn't go home. The guy didn't want me there. And then all my grandparents passed. My dad had passed some time ago, but I was really missing him then. And so I needed somebody to talk to, and Kayla ended up being that person, along with my friend Jennifer. But I definitely needed those two people to talk to because there was like no judgment. And it was like, okay, I understand. No, you're not wrong for feeling this way. And so that kind of just opened it at that point, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the only thing, I don't know, I agree with all of that. Not that there's anything to disagree about, but I did want to add, I think I was remembering as you were saying all that, because because I was like, there's something weird about the timing of you, because you weren't there my entire freshman year, and that's when it clicked. You showed up the second semester.
Yeah.
And that's what was throwing me off, because that was the same year as my second year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. But I wasn't allowed to have my car on campus the first year at all, because freshmen aren't allowed to do that.
Stupid.
But the second year, I was able to get a parking pass on North Campus, so that's why I had my car and why I was able to give you a ride. I just had to clarify that for myself. Totally forgot the timing of things a little bit, but we're good.
I guess I did make that clear, because I said beginning of my junior year, and then I didn't clarify it was the second half of my junior year when I started.
Yep.
And it was kind of towards later end of my junior year.
Yep. Yeah, that's when you started, and then I started giving you rides first semester of your senior year and my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Yep. And then on my end of things, I was also going through a really, really rough time while I was at U of M. My mom and I had been arguing a lot, like, for most of my high school years and into college at that point. And then the only person I had at that time to talk to that about was her mom, and she had passed away at the beginning of my freshman year. I had also, it wasn't a relationship, I found out towards the end, but I was dealing with someone from high school, and all of that was falling apart all at once. So then sophomore year, and I hated being at U of M. Like, nothing against the school that I was in specifically or any of the classmates or the teachers that I had. The school itself is not great. I'm not going to pretend that I like it. But nothing against those people. But that was just not anything that I should have been doing at that point in time. I was in art school, and I feel like you if you're going to be an artist, it should be like, I don't feel like you should have to try super hard for that kind of art that I was doing. It's like photography, you know what I mean? If someone likes your photo, fine. If not, learning how to draw is not going to help me take better photographs. That was a tangent.
But she's a great photographer, just saying.
I'm not the best photographer out there, partially because I refuse to edit my pictures. And that's the only knock I'm going to give myself. She argues with me about that all the time, but I refuse to edit my pictures.
Oh, let's make it clear. I argue with her about her quality of photography, where she doesn't think that she's as great as she is. I don't argue with her about the fact that she doesn't edit, because I don't mind unedited pictures. I think
check out her Instagram. So then by the time she and I were able to actually start having those private conversations, my grandmother had died. My mom and I were still arguing. I had just left a very toxic relationship, and I didn't want to be at U of M, period. Like, there was no benefit to me. I'm not going to say that was probably the closest to rock bottom I had ever been at that point in my life. And I didn't want to keep sinking further down that hole, because it was getting to the point where I wasn't getting out of bed. I would wake up at 8:30 knowing I had to be at class at 8:30, and that would just make me feel worse. So then I'd stay in bed till 4, and I would miss all my classes. Like, there's just a whole lot going on. And I had my car, so, like, realistically, air quotes, there were no excuses. I could have been anywhere at any time, and I just could not find the energy or the motivation to do that. And at the time, I didn't realize how severe my depression had gotten, because I remember being in high school and telling one of my family members that I felt like I was depressed, and they told me that I was seeking attention. They don't remember saying that. And I talked to several different family members. There's only 3 of us in my, 3 other people in my immediate household, but none of them were very supportive of me for that. So then I didn't pay attention to the signs in myself to be able to get help when I could have. And that's where Kyra came in. Just being the sounding board, being someone who was open to me crying and not making me feel bad for being emotional and things like that.
I preached a lot.
But I mean, okay, it's gonna sound bad, but you talk a lot in general, and that's one of the things that I couldn't appreciate, because I don't really like to talk, despite the fact that we have a podcast. I like to talk about things that I have something to say, but I'm not gonna just start a dialogue, especially with strangers usually. So that's what stood out to me about being able to interact with Kyra, because I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to say a lot. I wanted to sit in the car and have an hour-long conversation after at 9 p.m. Yeah.
Sometimes it would last to 11 and be like, okay, I got to get up for class.
Right, I got to go.
But our conversations always seemed like there was more that needed to be said. Mm-hmm. Let me make this clear, because I don't want random people coming up to me. I don't talk to people I don't know or that I'm not comfortable with. Caitlin made me very comfortable with expressing myself, and that's why I don't shut up. But if you see me normally, I don't, and I said this before, I don't really talk to a lot of people.
I'm gonna only slightly disagree. I feel like, listen, I know, listen, you don't talk to complete strangers like that, but like, if there's even, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, for 10 being the most comfortable, if you're even at like a 4, you will talk more. It just won't be personal.
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. I think, okay, listen, she's a talker. She's got the gift of gab, and I mean that in the most loving way possible.
You're not the only person who told me that.
Because it's true, yeah. But so like she mentioned, I ended up at the end of my sophomore year. This was the year when I was not getting out of bed and all that. I ended up talking to Kyra about it, and then eventually completely dropping out of U of M. And my parents were not supportive of that at all. And
your parents gonna hate me after this.
No, it'll be. I mean, because I don't think it matters in the long run, because it ended up being the best thing I could have done. Because I, like, not to get dark or whatever, but I probably would have taken my life at some point, or like tried. And I'm glad that I didn't have to go down that path, because I did have people who were holding me away from that. But when I left U of M, full disclosure, I'm not a good friend, but as far as like keeping up with people when I'm not directly in their face like that. So I eventually stopped going to Unity on campus. I stopped doing like phone calls with friends. I stopped like FaceTiming people. I stopped talking to Kyra. I just gradually got away from everybody. And part of that was me being depressed, but the other part of that was I had just gotten a relationship that I also probably should not have been in, because I was depressed. Anyway, so we gravitated away from each other, and it wasn't until I think 2018. It was 2018, 2019. Unity on Campus has a yearly Friends reception, and I decided to go this time because I was now in massage school. It's been a full year after U of M that I decided to go to massage school, and I was doing a lot better. I had things to look forward to, and that relationship that I was in at the time was ending. It just, things were looking up for me. So I decided to go because Unity on Campus, even though it was kind of touchy as far as the direction they were heading in, I still liked those people. And Kyra was there. She was at the desk, and that was the first time I've ever gotten to run and hug somebody. It was really good to see her again. Yeah, it was fun.
That was really cool. Yeah. Okay, I do want to clarify something, because what happened is, it wasn't that, and I'll make this clear about myself, because I'm actually absolutely the same way. I find it hard to keep in touch with people because I always feel like I'm bothering them, and I don't want to like interfere if they're busy or stuff like that. I never want to be a bother. So then that's why I end up falling out of touch with certain people. Kayla was a little bit different, because she actually did make an effort to keep in contact with me in the beginning. And we did talk a lot in the beginning when she first left. And although she wasn't going to Unity, we were texting a lot as far as like what was going on. We didn't necessarily talk on the phone a lot because I was still busy with school, but we did text occasionally and stuff like that. And particularly when I graduated, I was talking to you a lot more, because I was going through another depression phase. I couldn't find a job. That'll be another episode. Right. But I couldn't find a job. I was going through it with my mom. There were certain things going on. We were still in that abusive household, and we were trying to leave. And I got scammed and felt terrible about it. Terrible about myself about it. And then I ended up finding a job. And also we forgot to say, because we did keep in contact, I was coming over braiding Kaylin's hair a couple times.
That was still kind of when we were driving from Detroit to the Unity meetings though.
But that was after we graduated though.
Yeah, I'm still saying though, like later in that year, it wasn't.
Right.
Like, yeah, it gradually
the way that you described it made it seem like almost immediately you fell off. Okay. We literally were like going to Unity together. She would pick me up for my job because I didn't have a car. And she would pick me up for my job. We would drive to Unity. She would offer to let me drive because I needed to practice at the time.
She never accepted.
I was nervous. But she never pushed me to be uncomfortable. And now I appreciated that. And then she was in a relationship with the person at the time. And then eventually, because that's when I had gotten my job. Eventually after that, we started distancing, and then we kind of regrouped. And she was telling me like, I miss you. I want to meet up with you, but I just can't talk about anything negative. I just don't need that in my life right now. And I kind of felt bad because I felt like the whole time that we've been friends, I had only been complaining about negative stuff. And so then I tried to take it into my mindset to be like, okay, maybe I'm not being a good friend. Maybe I am toxic, because this is not the first person to tell me that they don't want to talk about toxic stuff. And I actually have to write down stuff to talk about that's not toxic. And that made me feel really bad. But she didn't do it. She didn't do anything. And I never told her that until recently. And even then, she doesn't blame me for that. But it was just like, dang, I need to regroup myself. And then we kind of fell back off at that point because we were both going through shit. And then after she was starting to leave that relationship, that's when we kind of got back in touch. Because what she doesn't realize, and I never told her, is that she had let me borrow a book from her. And I was getting really irritated because I kept trying to reach out and stay in contact. I would see that she saw the text messages that I sent, and she would never respond. And I understood that she was going through stuff, so I was trying to be patient. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't know her address to mail her this book back, but the next time that I see her, I'm going to give it back to her, and I'm just going to be done. And I was like, because I can't keep overexerting myself for people who don't want to be a friend with me. Like, I thought that she didn't want to be my friend, which kind of hurt because she was one of the closest people that I had. And so then that opportunity never presented itself, funnily enough. And then I texted her on her birthday. I was in Seattle, and I texted her on her birthday, and she was like, thank you, I've been a terrible friend to you, thank you for remembering me. And I was like, well, of course. And it made me feel bad for trying to cut it off. And so then after that, we kind of just picked back up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not a good friend. I already know that, and I'm not listening on that. I am listening.
You were going through shit, so you weren't able to be a good
friend. But
friend.
listen, this is a consistent trait of mine. I'm not acting. Listen, I don't have any illusions about the type of person that I am. I am kind of, and it might be because I know that I have issues with maintaining friendships. I am one of my oldest friends. I've known her since I was 6, and we really only talked for the last, how fucking old am I? I'm 23. I'm not going to do that math. But we've only been talking this entire time because she would reach out to me, especially when we got cell phones. She came back up to visit. I still to this day, throughout that entire time, have not gone to see her in the states that she's lived in. And with my friends from high school and stuff like that, if I'm not talking to these people on a regular basis, I will eventually lose interest. And
I would like to make a correction. She did make a plan to go see her friend, and then COVID happened.
This year, yeah, but I'm already 23. Counts. No, it doesn't, yes, because that's after years of being like, damn, I could have done this. So, point being, I have a pattern of behavior that I am aware of. I'm not currently doing anything to fix it, because I feel like that's a lot. And no, listen, because there's also the delicate balance of people that actually want to be my friend and want to put that effort in with me versus people who want to do things the way that they're used to doing them. Like, I don't like fucking being on the phone. I don't like FaceTime. Every now and again, yes, but not every single interaction. So if you're the type of person that wants to be on FaceTime for 5+ hours doing not shit, I'm eventually not going to want to talk to you because I don't want to do that. And she'll say it. I think she said it in the last episode. I am absolutely the type of person to tell you what I like and what I don't like. So if I tell you that that's making me uncomfortable and nothing changes, I'm going to assume you don't fuck with me like that, and I'm going to stop pressing the issue. Very different circumstances from years ago when Kyra and I started gravitating away from each other because I was not as mature back then. But as the evolution of me being a bad friend went on, I now know how to set my boundaries and what I prefer to do as far as interacting with people. All of that to say, though, that I got the impression that I wasn't being a good friend, and I will always acknowledge that because I know I'm not. So if you had cut things off with me, it would have hurt, or it would have been sad more but I would have had to, I would not have been surprised because of how I was acting. Yeah.
Because my thing is the circumstances were different because we were actively trying to stay in contact with each other, and because we're so similar in type of like conversations thing, because I remember explicitly being like, I just didn't want to bother you, but I just wanted to say hi, and you were like, well, this is the same with me. So we kind of like knew how to talk to each other because we were similar in the way that we felt about keeping in contact.
Mm-hmm.
So that it wasn't more so like, oh, I wanted to be on, I don't have an iPhone, so there was never going to be a FaceTime type thing.
No,
and
not until Instagram.
And I don't really like FaceTime type stuff. Like, eventually it's like, okay, I like seeing you, but I don't want to just keep here staring at your face. I'd rather be like talk in person if I'm gonna, look at you. But we would, sorry, that sounds rude.
No, it's funny. Yeah, go ahead.
But the reason that we fell apart wasn't I don't think necessarily a communication issue as far as comfort level with the way that we communicated. It was just that you were going through stuff. I was going through stuff. I only wanted to talk about the stuff that I was going through. And you were like, I can't handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And you did explicitly tell me that. But then I don't know if you felt like I was going to be able to follow through with that. So then we just kind of not talked. But then when you were going through stuff that was like really important, you was like, hey, you called me. And I was like, oh my God, she never called. Something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you was like, can you support me in this? And I was like, of course. Like, why wouldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
And so stop. No, she keeps saying that she's not a good friend.
No. I said I don't have good friends.
And I think that's the reason why you think that you're not a good friend, because you're so used to people taking advantage of you, or people or friends taking advantage of you and not being consistent as a friend to you, that the only way that you knew how to respond was on an equal playing field. So then when you have a good friend, you don't think that you're being adequate enough. But if I think that you're adequate and I can tell you when I feel like, oh, you're not doing this right, then I don't think there's an issue.
I don't think you've ever told me in the meat of a situation that you don't like what I'm doing.
Because I had to process it. Stop.
Okay. No, all right.
I'm a thinker, I'm an analyzer, and I have to, me personally, before I say stuff, because there's been times where I said stuff and been completely wrong, completely misinterpreted a situation and stuff like that. And then I feel like my feelings or my emotions are always over the top, I guess. So if I feel embarrassment, it's like 10 times the embarrassment that normal people will feel. Like I will overthink it. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God. Like, it's really that serious.
Yeah. Everybody.
So because I don't like having that feeling, I had to start telling myself, by the time that I met you, telling myself to like think about what I'm saying before I say it, and think about my part in it. So I wouldn't have just came out and say, okay, I didn't like the way that you did this. I had to really think about, okay, am I being selfish about it?
Mm-hmm.
Did I do something that prompted you to do this? Like, I have to think about every aspect.
You're so funny. So, but I am not that type of person. I went the complete opposite way with that. I had people in high school that would do shit like that. And instead of being like, oh, I need to like not overanalyze, but like, literally analyze every detail of the situation, I would be like, you're going to tell me what the fuck I did now, and we're going to talk about it, or we're not going to talk about this ever again. You know what I mean? So like, no, because I feel like there's no point because usually for me, when I do think about it like that, I come to the wrong conclusion. It's usually whatever I was feeling from jump is what needs to be discussed. Even if the information that I used to come to my conclusion was wrong, I feel like I usually come to at least a viable conclusion. I'm not going to say it's always accurate, but it's not always wrong. Yeah. I would rather talk about it because I don't know, especially for stuff where I feel like recently, this is a good time to talk about it. I had a situation with a friend earlier this year who is no longer my friend, where I didn't explicitly tell her how what she was doing made me feel. I told her it made me uncomfortable, but I didn't tell her the full amount of uncomfort that it made me feel. So then days later, she took something I did as being passive aggressive, and she goes, have I been a good friend to you lately, or have I been caught up in my own shit? So I told her, yes, you have been caught up in your own shit. And then the whole thing spiraled, and she's like, I'll never be wrong about this. You're just triggered by whatever, because it was a joke about sexual assault. That makes me uncomfortable. That's not funny. You know what I mean? Like, even if I can see why you would say it's funny, but then for me to tell you,
it was a meme. Just
yeah, it's a meme. You know what I mean? But for me to tell you that makes me uncomfortable, and for you to argue with me about how I should be interpreting that to the point where you're like, I'll never be wrong about this. See, I feel like I should have just said what I needed to say from jump, and we would have never got to this point where you think I'm being passive aggressive. I moved on from it because you clearly didn't want to talk about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the type of person to like keep. Even if I do decide to be passive aggressive, I will do that 1 or 2 times and then I'll probably fucking forget, to be honest. Like, I'm not doing that on purpose. You know what I mean? So for you to think that I would be that type of person and then call yourself my friend, I was like, you should know that if I wanted to talk about it, I would have. And because I didn't, now I feel like I should have.
And see, the thing is with that situation, and here's the thing, because she doesn't realize that she does analyze certain stuff. Because what she'll do is she'll go to somebody that she'll trust and she'll ask their opinion. She asked my opinion on it separately, almost immediately after it happened, because I was a part of the conversation.
The second conversation, to clarify.
Yeah, the second conversation. Or was it the first one?
No, the first one. Let's time frame this. The first one, when she sent me the joke, was on a Thursday.
Yeah, and then that.
No, I probably didn't talk to you about it that Thursday. I might have talked to you about it Friday.
Right, but I was still a part of the conversation then. Because it was sent in a group chat.
No, the meme was on Twitter. There's something else was on. That was Sunday, and that was in the group chat. That was the conversation. That's what. Yeah, exactly. That's why it was petty, because on Thursday. That's why I was so upset.
So many levels.
Right? Because so let's say Thursday she sent me the meme on Twitter, and I told her that makes me uncomfortable, and she's still, kind of arguing with me about it. Then, like, well, I don't think it's that bad, and I'm like, okay, I can see why you would say that, but don't, I'm not going to back down on this. And instead of even responding to that or continuing the conversation or closing it out, like agree to disagree or anything, she stops responding, and then 6 hours later messages me on a different app about something completely different. I can see that you don't want to talk about this. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to tell you. No. It was a different thing. Listen, man, I pull it through. So listen. So I feel like we shouldn't be talking about that. Okay, but so, because this is so off topic, I'm so sorry.
Not really.
But so she sent me the meme on Thursday, and then 6 hours later hopped to a different app. Then on Friday or Saturday, I sent a thing in the group chat that was like friendship types, because at that time we were all planning on living together, and I thought it would be helpful to say like, oh, I need this kind of communication. Oh, I need this kind. You know what I mean? I thought it'd be cute. And then the day after that, she goes, it was maybe later in that day, she's like, have I been a good friend, or have I been caught up in my own shit? To me, because it's been days at this point, those things have nothing to do with each other. They have literally no correlation, especially because if we're hopping different apps to change the conversation, you sent one thing on Twitter and I said this completely separate thing on Instagram, and now you're connecting the pieces because you feel bad about what happened.
So going back to her saying like she does analyze, because she messaged me after that, because I was part of the group chat where she sent the thing about the friendship types. I thought it was funny, and I was like, oh, okay, I see myself doing that, doing this.
That's the point.
And so she asked me about it, and she was like, okay, how was I reading into this wrong? And I was like, no, I mean, she asked the question. If you don't like the answer, don't ask. And that's, for me, that's just the way that I'm raised. And I do people like that all the time. I was like, if you don't like the answer, then you shouldn't ask the question. You cannot expect that people is going to give you an answer that you want.
Just to kiss your ass. Yeah,
that's not going to happen. If you possibly think that you're not going to like the response and it's going to piss you off to a point where you're not going to be responsive to anything, if you're going to get mad at this person, don't ask the question.
Don't ask, man. And like, one of the things that, I don't know if I ever articulated this, but one of the things that was really upsetting for me about that situation was, again, I'm not a perfect friend. There were plenty of times during our friendship where she let me know that I dropped the ball on something. And I was like, I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Even if I felt like it was something she was tripping about or something like that, I would apologize and I would do something to make up for it. Like pay for her to get her nails done or just drive her to class or something like that. Because I'm trying to set a precedent for being a better friend, because I know I'm not a good one. But the problem is that when it's all of a sudden the tables are turned and I'm telling you that you dropped the ball in our friendship, or like, you know, talking to her when she dropped the ball in our friendship, and I'm telling her that for the first time, it's all of a sudden off the wall. She can't hold herself accountable. And that's what really bothered me. I can't have friendships with people that refuse to hold themselves accountable. Even if you don't feel like it was a big deal, acknowledge that what you said was upsetting to me. Even if you decide not to change your language, or you don't feel bad about what you said at all, acknowledge it. That's the issue. I'm not expecting you to apologize. That's way beyond the scope of what I can ask for from you as a human. But for you as my friend, at least acknowledge it.
See, and I would have apologized. Like, if I was in that situation, and Kayla knows this about me, because we've actually talked explicitly about this particular thing. And I was like, you know, because she asked my opinion about it, and I was like, look, honestly, one, if she didn't like the answer, she should never ask in the first fucking place. Two, that just really pisses me off. Like, if you really want constructive criticism about how to be better as a person, and then you get mad at the response, then you didn't want to be better about it in the first place. And that's just you wasted mine and your time, and that's just fucking frustrating. That type of stuff really pisses me off. But then too, she was like, you know, am I overthinking it? Should she have apologized, blah, blah, blah? And I was like, look, I can't tell you how this person should respond or anything like that. Me personally, what I would have done, if I was comfortable with what was said with the meme and thought it was funny or whatever like that, and you told me that it made you uncomfortable, I would have said, I'm sorry that it made you uncomfortable. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I took it completely different. I won't send stuff like that no more. That acknowledges that, no, I don't necessarily feel that way about this type of stuff, but I know not to send it to you because it makes you uncomfortable.
Exactly, man. And then after I talked to Kyra and she was like, no, you shouldn't feel bad about any of that, I still did. And I apologized to her and was like, look,
she was doing too much.
Listen, but I'm trying to be a better friend. So I apologized to her and was like, I'm sorry that I flew off the handle. I'm sorry that we're having this miscommunication. I value your friendship and I want to move forward from this. And that's the point in the conversation where she starts going, you just want to be misunderstood and I'll never be wrong about this and all that. So then I'm like, look, bro, I don't need to talk to you anymore. Like, I still value you as a person, but we don't need to talk for a little bit. And she didn't even respond, just double tapped the message. And I have not spoken to her since then.
That was petty.
And we work together. Like, it's not as uncomfortable as it would seem because I'm a massage therapist. It's not like we're seeing each other all the time. But in passing, I'm still going to be nice to you. Like, she was having a health challenge the other day. I'm going to flip the table for you and clean it off or whatever because I'm that kind of person. But it's no longer about you being my friend. And I hope that sheds some light on the type of person that I am for her, not for the audience. Okay, but like, I am going to do good things for people because I feel like it. I'm not doing that to get anything from you. You know what I mean? I don't care how you feel about me after that. If back when I was apologizing for the things that I did in our friendship that I consider being fucked up, she didn't necessarily feel like I did as bad of a job as a friend. Like Kyra said, I'm usually harder on myself than people are to me to my face, but I felt like I needed to make it up to her, so I offered to pay for her nails.
And I think that translated back into, I did translate it back into like being the type of friend that you are, and you not thinking that you're as good as you are. Because the thing is we are, you're a good friend because you are what I need at that point. Mm-hmm. And so although you may feel that you're inadequate with what you're doing because you're not being the type of friend that you need, you're being the type of friend that I need. And that's the difference. Is because I don't need you to be, because you've never had to do that with me where you had to take me somewhere because you make me feel uncomfortable about a situation or something like that.
You wouldn't let me anywhere.
No, I wouldn't. We will argue about stuff like that.
We have to keep flip-flopping about who's paying for stuff. Like when she first moved in, I could see it potentially becoming a real issue. So
we talked about it and we acknowledged that we were going to have an issue with it, and now we laugh about it because it's funny.
I was going to say, we're at a good balance now.
We are who we need for each other to be as a friend. Like, my thing is, like, I didn't need you to be like calling me every day and stuff like that, but when I needed you, you were there. Like, I text you at 4:00 in the morning about the situation I was going through. I'm not going to get into that, but I was just like, I didn't expect you to respond, and you was like, are you okay? When I needed to talk to somebody, she doesn't like FaceTime. I don't like it either, but when I really needed to talk about something, we hopped on Instagram,
the video chat thing. Yeah.
And I was like, I just need your opinion about, am I doing this right? Like, am I overthinking it? And she was loud about my, my thinking process. Her and my other friend, but I did talk to Kaylin a little bit more about it because my other friend is a nurse, and so she was busy a lot of times, but she still listens to me whenever I need to. And so she's always been there for emotional support, which is what I needed. I didn't need the extra stuff. I don't want the extra stuff. We're completely fine. When I was like, I'm going through this stuff and I'm just trying to figure out how to get out, and me, it was just purely a me type trying to talk it out type thing, just releasing my thought process and stuff like that, venting. She was like, well, I mean, I was thinking about getting an apartment, and I was going to ask you if you wanted to be my roommate. This seemed like perfect. And I was like, I was thinking about the same thing too, but I didn't know how to ask. And so it was like, we came to the same conclusions at the same time about certain things. And for that reason, I would never say that she was a bad friend. There was a point of time where she was being a bad friend, but that was because of stuff that she was going through. You can't judge or be mad at somebody about going through their own shit. And she was absolutely honest about it. And in her going through that, it gave me time to reanalyze how I was being as a person. And I said it before, like, I wasn't the best person. I was being a little bit toxic. And although she didn't tell me that I was toxic, just her stating like, I can't talk about negative things, it was like, well, damn. If you have to take the point out or make a point to say something like that, then that means that I'm talking about this a lot, where I need to make sure that, one, I'm dealing with certain things on my own. And two, I can't be overburdening people like that. And although it did make me a little bit overconscious about that type of stuff, where I had to relearn, like I had to reverse that a little bit and learn balance, it was something that was necessary. So even at that, with her being not the best friend, she was being a great friend at that, because it brought something to my attention that I needed to work on. And then she also brought, a fat point to me where one of my, who I thought was one of my closest friends, wasn't really a friend to me. And, this person called me her sister all the time and stuff like that, but she's not there when I need her. And she was like, I would be like, hey, I want to hang out. I miss you. I'm not going to talk about toxic stuff. I just want to, hang out. This person's about to leave overseas and not going to tell me anything. The only reason that it was brought up is because I personally reached out to this person. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Oh, I was about to leave overseas. You were going to leave and not say anything to me? And then I find out that you're hanging out with all these other people, and I'm asking you to hang out. And then when I tell you that she would completely just blow over it like I didn't say anything, and she'll pick something else to say about it, I was like, oh, so you actually don't want to hang out with me. And I took it internally. It was like, well, maybe I'm just like that terrible of a friend. And to Kaylin and say, it was like, no, it's not necessarily that. You just don't want to hang out with you, So I haven't necessarily had the best friends in general. Yeah.
Yeah, you saying that reminded me of to backtrack a little bit. It was when you were talking about having, like, being a friend, to like, the quality of the friendship is determined by what needs you're meeting, and like what need is most important to the person. Is, at least that's how I interpreted what you were saying.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm a bad friend purely because when I was in high school, I had a larger friend group. And like, not the point of me bringing that up is because everybody fit a different need for everybody else. So I had one person I could be really emotional with. I had one person that I would just have a lot of fun with, so on and so forth. Like, we all fit different needs for each other. And then when we came together as a group, we just had fun. But then, high school friends don't really last. And when we went to college, we all went to different colleges. Some of us, one guy was in Tennessee, another person was in Ohio. Like, 3 of us were in Michigan. 4 of us were in Michigan and 3 of us were at the same school, but we were on different campuses within that school. So we didn't see each other that often. And as things started to fall apart with that, I just started to I was being way too hard on myself. My mom will tell you this. She gave me a lot of food for thought, I'll say gently. But she was saying, like, you know, you're being too hard on these people who are going through just the same amount of stress as you are. I was like, I can agree with that, but one of the people that was in school in Michigan but not at the campus that we were at, he had a girlfriend that he would come up. She was at the school with us. He would come up there to see her, but not to visit his friends. That really, I felt like that hurt my feelings, but people were acting like I was tripping about that. Like, oh, but that's his girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but you've been dating her for 1.5 years, and I've been friends with you for almost 10 years. So I kind of feel like I don't at least get a, hey, I'm on campus, just wanted to let you know. You know what I'm saying? So at the bare minimum, especially after I told you that bothered me. Or the friend that I had in Ohio, she was, out of the people in that group, there's like 8 of us in the group. She was the one at the time that I considered my best friend. We met in middle school and we had been friends all through high school into college. And even though she was in Ohio, we would still talk all the time. But then I found out she was coming up to visit her friend that was going to, I think it's Grand Valley. And I asked her to come visit me. So for you to go do this to visit your other friend and shit like that, I was like, okay, clearly. And I went to go visit her. I went to go visit the one in Tennessee even. You know what I mean? Like, I was making the effort to go visit my friends. And I felt like maybe I wasn't meeting those specific needs for that person. So I was trying to do too much. And that's what my mom was telling me. I was trying to be like, I don't know what the fucking word is, where you're trying to like do everything at once. You know what I mean? But I was trying to do that for every single one of them, and ended up falling short for myself and paying attention to, like, I'm overextending myself, so now I'm not being a good friend to people who are genuinely being friends with me. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that.
Because you were so used to being disappointed. And when she explained that to me, I was just like, Kaylin, like, and I tell her this and still continue to tell her this, because I didn't need all that. I will say this, and this is one of the things that was really, really important to me. Kaylin was the only friend that I've had that remembered my birthday. Even a friend who was my sister, every once in a while, like previously when we were a little bit closer, she did come up to visit my school. Even, we were 10 minutes away because she went to Eastern.
Okay.
And so then, at the time, my twin went there too. And so he came over and he brought her with him. And there were times where at first she did call me and we were talking more often. And then we just grew more distant. And when I was trying to reach out, because I was like, well, it's not fair that she's just calling me and I'm never calling her. I'm going to make sure that I do this. And then it got to the point where I'm the only one that's extending myself and she's not trying anymore. And so, but I didn't have friends that came up and visited me. The one person that I went to high school with that actually went to the school that I went to didn't even consider me a best friend, but she talked to me about a lot of stuff, which kind of hurt my feelings. You know, she was remember her other friends' birthdays who go to different schools and stuff, like going up there to party with them. And I remember one time we had moved in on my birthday, and I went up to Central. She lived on Central Campus, and I went up to Central Campus to visit her because she asked me to come up, and she was like, oh, I got a surprise for you upstairs, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you remember my birthday. I don't need people to buy me stuff and stuff like that. Happy birthday is fine for me.
Like a cupcake or a cheesecake.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay. And something told me, don't overthink it, because she didn't remember. And so I was like, it was because one of our mutual friends, Kyle, was there. And it wasn't that she remembered my birthday. She was just saying, hey, he's here. And, you know, that's cool. And I was like, you forgot that it's my birthday. And she was like, oh my God, I did. Oh my God. But, you know, everybody else, like, I'm with you damn near almost every day because we're hanging out. You're on Central Campus. We're doing this. We're doing that. And I can't even get a happy birthday or a birthday card. Kaylin's the only person who, even when she wasn't fucking with me or whatever like that, she would message me on Instagram and say happy birthday. The only person that did that. Even the person who considered herself my sister didn't do that. And I was really hurt because I was like, I almost had to remind people. I had to text them and be like, hey, how's it going? They'd be like, nothing. What's going on with you? Nothing. Just turned 23 today. oh, happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, why do I have to do that when I make an effort to remember everybody's birthday? I will text you and be like, hey, happy birthday. I didn't forget. Or if I forgot to text on that day because I got busy, I will text the next day and be like, happy belated birthday. I didn't forget. I just got busy, forgot to send this, blah, blah, blah. And Kaylin's the only person that ever did that. And that was important to me.
Yeah, my birthdays are important. I think that you brought up a good point towards the end there. Like, that's something that's important to you, so you place more importance on that. And I think that was one of the hardest issues that I had. Like, it took me a long time to adjust to that. So, like, for me, oh my gosh, one year for high school, I got all of my friends gifts. Like, I got a gift for every single one of them. And I don't know why I was expecting them to get me gifts. Like, I was asking them what they wanted for Christmas and stuff like that. And to me, just me asking implied, like, you know, let's get each other gifts. You know what I mean? I was the only one that did that. And I don't know, like, that really hurt my feelings back then. But now thinking about it, I don't know why I was even expecting that from them, because they're not that type of person. Excuse me. None of them were that type of person. You know what I mean? And I don't know, like, I don't have necessarily like a point in bringing that up other than to say, like, we just weren't compatible as people. And I took way more emotional baggage from that than I should have, considering the fact that they were not malicious people. Nothing they did was intentionally to hurt my feelings or anything like that. Like, they weren't out to get me or anything. Like, I'm not saying that they're bad people. We just weren't supposed to be friends. So
you weren't supposed to be friends for an extended period of time. They served their purpose in your life, and that was done.
I guess so, because this was when we were like sophomores in high school. You know what I'm saying? So for you all to be my high school friends and fall short while we're still in high school, I feel like it was more of me not wanting to be alone than them actually fulfilling a purpose for me.
But that's in itself fulfilling a purpose, because you weren't alone. But my thing is that they served their purpose because wasn't that the only options that you had?
No, I did go to a small high school, and most of the people I ended up being friends with were people I met in middle school. But that was because I went out of my way. Because my freshman year, we only had one class together, like all of us. I did make other friends, like I made another friend who was a July Leo. I talked about her last episode, or briefly at least, like, mentioned it. But I made other friends, and I still placed more importance on the people from middle school, and I couldn't tell you why. You know what I'm saying?
Because you know them longer. They're comfortable.
Kind of.
But here's the thing, and you said something important. They were middle school. You know, some people don't mature as fast as other people. You know, a middle school friendship is not necessarily, unless you both are maturing together at the exact same rate, you're expecting your mentality or your high school needs for someone who's still fulfilling and feeling that the middle school needs are good enough.
I'm only going to disagree with that, because I didn't come to not disagree, but like, that was not anything that was on my mind back then. I didn't come to that conclusion until I was in college.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. And I just, like, I hate the fact that you don't consider yourself a good friend because you've been a great friend to me, you know, and you still make that face.
Because not always, and you can't even admit that, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. And I know you can't always be a good friend or whatever, but I feel like the areas where I've been a bad friend, I could have at least been mediocre, because I could have communicated better.
Here's what I'm saying. It's like, there's always good and bad in any type of relationship. Friendships, spouse relationships, yeah, romantic. Romantic, that's the word. Romantic relationship, friendships, brothers and sisters, siblings. Any type of relationship has its ups and downs. And we kind of went to an extreme. We went from really good to really low to really great again. But what I can say is that the good outweighed the bad. We're to the point where, like, it outweighed it extensively, to the point where I don't really remember or focus on the bad part, because it was such a small point. You know, although it was like a really low, it wasn't so low that it was something that needs to be brought up all the time. Like, oh, you really fucked me over this time, and boom, like, that is, it's not that bad, you know. And all of the good things completely outweigh where it's just like, oh shit, that did happen. okay.
Right.
And
Okay.
you just move on. Like, it's one of those things where you literally just move on because it's so mediocre. It's so little. So it's just like, it doesn't bother me because you've been so great in other areas, like at other points.
That's fair.
You don't agree, but
No, I don't. Yeah, I think moving forward, we didn't really get to talk too much about. I think I'm pausing a lot. The way that we've been friends this year has been very different from the rest of our friendship, specifically due to proximity. And
no, I can't agree with that.
The only reason I'm gonna have to is because I think you get to see more of me at all comfort levels. So like, let's say if we're just having a conversation on the phone, or like when we're having a conversation in the car, you them, when we get tired or like frustrated about anything, you can just go home, be in your own space, and then pick up the conversation even days later if you want to. But because we live together, I may not want to talk tomorrow, but I'm still going to see you in the kitchen getting breakfast or something like that. You know what I mean? And I'm still going to, you know what I mean?
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I was just thinking on like a more like, I guess, deeper level where it was just like, I'm thinking about the type of conversations that we had. Like, you would text me when something or someone was irritating you and be like, am I bugging, or is this, am I tripping? Like, this is what happened. I'd be like, I mean, honestly, I would be mad about that too. And, we would get irritated on the phone and be like, okay, well, I don't agree with this. But to I guess, follow into your definition of it, we would hang up and then, talk back about it later.
Yeah.
But, to a certain extent, we do that now. Like, I don't agree. We just go to our separate rooms, and that's just what that is. So, and we've always been very open about what we're comfortable with. So it's like, okay, I don't feel like talking about that right now. Like, even when we weren't living in the same space, we'd be like, okay, I'm not comfortable talking about it right now. We have to come back to it. And we would do that.
And you saying that, I just realized it's probably standing out more for me because the only two people I don't have to, don't take this the wrong way, audience, but I don't generally have to share my space like that. I only have one sibling and he's a boy, so we've always had very separate things going on. Not only that, but I'm older than him, so it's not like I was seeing what activities he was doing and joining in on that. He did that with me. You know what I mean? So the only people I really had to share my space with in an intimate way like that has been my ex and you. So don't take it like that. She made a face. I learned a lot from being with him that I never would have considered before. So now I'm in my head, like, hyper analyzing every mundane thing because I don't usually get to see people in mundane ways. I didn't really have, like, when I was in college, I was only there for 2 years. I only had 2 roommates, and the first one was never there, which was great. We got along perfectly. She would let me eat her food. When my brother and his friends came up to visit, she let us borrow her bed. Like, she didn't care because I compulsively clean. We talked about that last episode. She let me clean her shit even. You know what I mean? She did not care. She got me these socks that I'm currently wearing for Christmas as a gift. Like, we were cool. But then sophomore year, she was a huge bitch. Like, complete difference to the point where I didn't talk to her. I literally stopped.
It was the same roommate?
No, completely different person. Because I was in a living community the first year, and the second year I was just in the same dorm for whatever fucking reason, and didn't like her. And she eventually did start spending more time with her friends and stuff like that. She had a boyfriend back at home, so she would go see him sometimes, but I did not interact with her like that because I didn't fucking like her. So for me to have only 2 experiences with people that I like, I'm not used to having to balance out, like, being a good friend while I'm in a bad mood. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. That's something that I've never had to really deal with. And my friend that I was talking about earlier this episode that lives in a different state, she even makes jokes to this day about how much of a, like, bitch I was being when I was in a bad mood when I was younger. You know what I mean? And I would only be with her for like 2-3 nights, and then she would go home. We were like 6. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that I personally am dealing with, that I've noticed in several different ways, but like distinctly now that we're talking about it, that you don't have to deal with in the same way. And I think that's
maybe it's because I have siblings. I have
7.
I have 7 siblings.
Yeah.
And I've, except for 1 month in my life, 1 month, have had to share a room. And the 1 month was, I think, my 13th or 14th birthday. I got my own room. And then my twin fucked up because he had his own room. Because he was the oldest boy, for a period of time, once he reached a certain age, he got his own room, and then I just had to share it. I still don't understand it. It was so fucking unfair, but it was what it was. But I've always had to share, and so me sharing a space, being in the same space with people who, you know, are momentarily irritated, I just retreat into myself and say, okay, well, you'll talk about it when you're ready. And I do that with Kaylin. If something's going wrong where I know she's in a bad mood, I'll be like, you ready to talk about it? No, not right now. Okay, go back to my space. When you're ready to talk, you'll come and talk to me. And that's literally how we do it. And so it doesn't, I guess it just doesn't bother me.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, because like, it's not that it bothers me per se. It's just that that's something that I tend to overanalyze because it's something new for me to deal with. So
I mean, but you went in saying that, and I explicitly told me that. I still remember you was like, look, I'm not used to sharing space, so I may get irritated sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, I'm used to oversharing space, so just let me know if I overstay my welcome, I'll leave.
Yeah, see, but part of, I don't know how to explain what my thought process is on that, but there's so many different angles to look at that from. So it's easier for me to see how I'll feel about sharing my space when I know I'm going to be upset. But as opposed to, like, if you say something that makes me think, and then I'm just stuck in my head for most of the conversation, like going down a whole thought train, and then I'm not paying attention to the conversation, it seems like I'm upset. Or if I'm tired, but I still want to hang out, but I don't want to talk. Like, I'm not good at articulating all my moods, and I know that that's ridiculous, and you're not, like, that's a really heavy expectation to put on myself. But because I'm thinking about it like that, I'm like, oh, well, I know that when I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to be like this, but I don't know how I'm going to be in all these other moods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that too much, but you don't have to think about that at all, because you've always had to share your space. And so for me, adjusting to sharing my space, it's a lot going on. You know what I mean?
And
yeah.
Like, literally, like, if I get in a bad mood, I will exit myself and be like, look, I'm just gonna go pace the floor and I need to be by myself. So I don't know, because you're so used to just being by yourself that you just have time to think. But you know, the thing is, like, she invites me in her room to share space all the time, and I'll pick up on when she doesn't feel like to talk, and I'll be like, okay, well, we just not gonna talk, and that just be what it is. But that's because, I guess, because we grew so close that I pick up on her certain feelings or whatever. So then I know, like, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes how to just, you know, interpret the situation. Just be like, okay, well,
I'm going to say that's, you do, but the only thing you don't pick up on that I think is hilarious is when I want to argue.
Because I don't like to argue.
Exactly. That's hilarious. That's really funny. That's funny.
And I know that, and I think I pick up on it, but because I don't like to argue, I just ignore it.
Maybe. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah, that's funny. That's hilarious.
I'm only gonna tiny bit dispute that, because the few times I'm not ever gonna, unless it's like I really need to argue about whatever it is, I'm not gonna outright say, well, I want to argue right now. I might ask you, like, why you responded, or like,
Let's make this clear. She likes to debate.
I love debate. Oh my god, I got in an argument with some people on Twitter last night for like an hour.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man, it was great. I won, and
that makes her feel good.
It does.
So, like, she will do that, and she'll be like, and I know when she's prompting it because she wants to have something to respond to. She did it last night.
No, I didn't.
You did.
Nope, not the same way that I'm describing.
But you still did it.
I didn't want to argue last night. We've been reading this book called The Celestine Prophecy. I finished it like a month ago, and I've been asking her to read it, and she finally picked it up, and I really wanted to talk about it. So I just kept, and she's a talker. I've said that already. But it's easy to prompt her with stuff. So I want to think about exactly what I want to, what thought path I want her to go down. So I'll phrase my questions very carefully. That's not the same thing as me trying to argue.
But it doesn't necessarily always go down the right path, though. Because I think so out of the box sometimes. You feel like, okay, well, we came the same way.
That's okay. When that happens, it's like, okay, I'm thinking we're gonna go. If we're already at the same train station, then we can just keep moving, but then you'll re-explain how we got to that station. I'm like, I understood that. Let's go past it. Let's keep going. And I did say that yesterday, but that's, again, completely different than times where I just be wanting to argue for fuck's sake. Yeah,
she does like to argue.
I do.
And she understands that it makes me uncomfortable. So she does really in a lot because, again, she's a good friend. I told her that I don't like it. And although that is something that she likes, we entertain each other to a comfortable level of extent. I know that she likes it, so sometimes I'll entertain it. She knows that I don't like it, so she doesn't always present every time that she has the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm.
So, balance.
Balance, as all things should be.
Mm-hmm.
Thanos meme.
Well, I think, unless you have something else
to say.
I
was going to say that's a good point to wrap it up. I don't know if we need to summarize anything, but yeah, we've only been friends for like a drop in the bucket compared to our respective entire lives, but it's been very impactful.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful for it. So she knows I love her. We wouldn't have been friends as long as we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess we can end on that note.
All right, again, follow me on Instagram, Kaylin_was_. No, that's yours. Kaylin was here _ at the end. There we go.
And mine is Kyra_is_here. Is there underscore after that?
No, I don't think so. Both of our names are in the title of the episode. If you spell it wrong, that's on you.
And on that note, just so you know, Kyra is here.
Kaylin was here. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Oh, wait, I was supposed to say that. Bye.